I start reading the history of Latin America, and I realize, my God, these are just big farms. In the United States, basically, once we took control of Latin America, kicked the Spanish out, basically what we did was just pour a lot of money into the rich elites in Latin America and gave them enough weapons so they could control the people, so that all the produce and what they were exporting, we could just make decisions about what to do with that. So we just allied ourselves with the elites, and then we had all this bananas and pineapples and tobacco and whatever it is that we need. And then we align with them, and then that's just us. And the more I read, the more I realize, oh my gosh, this is like, there was this word where we called about the banana republics. These were just like, they're some countries, but this is just the United Fruit Company's Caribbean empire. One. This is the United States. We basically went into the countries and said, hey, they're ours now. And now we need a military there, so what we'll do is we're going to take the rich, and we're going to pay them off, and then they're going to establish the military, and they'll do our dirty work, and we'll give them all the weapons they need, and then we'll get all of the fruits of their labor. And then it gets more and more intense and more complex, and eventually you get to a place where people in Latin America are suffering so much that they start to rise up. And there's a whole movement in the 1960s around the world that was sort of coalesced around this idea of communism and socialism. So poor people, like really poor people, y'all, like if you can, like essentially slaves. So you got it, like imagine, and they start to suddenly rise up a little bit and to come together. Like you all get together and you say, hey, we got to figure out how we're going to even feed our children here. We're going to start a school, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do that. And then the countries here start to establish these death squads. And the death squads are all these secret squads. First off, they have their militaries, but the militaries can't do it all, so then they have all these secret squads. And the secret squads are just watching for the communists, watching for anybody who wants to actually do anything to help their people. And y'all, like, look, one of the problems in life that many of you probably have right now is this doesn't matter to you. It doesn't matter because it's not real. It's not real, right? You know what I mean? It's like, I don't. It's not real till you sit down with someone whose husband was pulled out of their house, or who lost their child, or one thing after another after another. It's not real. And at that moment, things start to change, because then the person is a real face. You know what I mean? And then you got to confront all of the issues. So here at Death Squad, this is El Salvador, this is in Guatemala. Right? So here are some of these squadrons, Squadrones de Muerto. And here's some of the stuff, the dirty work they did. Executing people, dumping bodies in mass graves, decapitating people, crucifixion, all the most horrific, innocent people. Priests and nuns and the good people. Christian ministers, doesn't matter. Good people, nice people, right? All this stuff. Hey, by the way, if you are following the Middle East, I used to do a lecture on this. I don't anymore. But if you're following the Middle East at all, if you're familiar with ISIS in the Islamic State, are some of you familiar? Those are the exact same things that ISIS is doing in Syria and in Iraq. So these horrific, horrible, terrible people, subhuman people who claim to be, we call them subhuman, who claim to be Muslims, who are doing these terrible things. This is all they're doing. And this is all these other people doing, who we actually paid to do. We train them. They're part of the United States, part of our tactic. And this isn't a way of just hating the United States. It's a way of understanding what's going on. This is serious. So imagine me, I'm 20 years old. Then I'm 21, and I'm 22, and I'm studying this more, and I'm getting more just crazy because it makes no sense to me. Because I'm just this kid from Toledo, Ohio. I'm working class. I'm going to the University of Toledo. It's a small state school. I'm paying $500 a quarter to go to school. By now studying sociology, I didn't know anything. I was just every day trying to pull my head out of my rear end, just going like, but yet I keep confronting these things that are throwing me into this whirlwind of reality. And then I start to encounter stuff. Right? So here are some victims in San Salvador in 1981, right? So this is all stuff now I'm engaging in. Like I'm really, it's just death squads trained by the United States, often in the United States, using weapons paid for by the United States. So imagine me, my mind's just spinning like, what the fuck? What? Right? Seriously? And so somehow I got to hold these two together. Because the United States this isn't the United States I know, which is also true. Right? It's the place. We send people out to help people. We send people out when there's famine. We send people out to do all sorts of really awesome things. Most often we use our military to do good things. It's like, come on, we're doing this. Not the people, not the Americans I know, but this secret shit's happening. And I got to make sense of it. So here are some people who've been killed. I mean, it's like the body, I can't even begin, hundreds of thousands of people. Here's the Guatemalan Army. It acknowledged destroying 440 Mayan villages in 2 years. 440 Mayan villages. This is a military trained by the United States. So essentially going into these villages because they have the idea that these are communists there. And we got to get rid of the communists because that's jeopardizing the United States and everything we stand for. So imagine just going in, surrounding the villages, burning them, and then slaughtering people. 440 is what they acknowledge. Men, women, children, elderly, slaughtered with weapons paid for by the United States, by people trained by the United States. So imagine now I'm like 20 here, 23 in 1983. I was 23. I was born in 1960. Here's a mass grave of 50 Salvadoran companies in Chalatenango. And this was killed by this battalion here that was trained at School of the Americas. That's in Fort Benning, Georgia, right? So look at it's just one after another. You keep going. Look at all the bones. These are mass graves upon mass graves. Hundreds of thousands of people. Hundreds of thousands. Right? Okay, so here we go. Look at, this is so intense, man. So this is the person who's doing the excavation, and look at how the two people are holding each other. Imagine that's your mother and your father. And they did nothing. They weren't a threat to the government. They did nothing. In a foreign country, a foreign invading country paid to have them killed. Imagine that. So this is the legacy that we're working with all the time. And so, you don't know about it. But imagine those of you who you just kind of follow, you have this idea like, yeah, Trump, go Trump, or conservatives, or I love America, and who are pissed because I said, I have a hard time standing. I can't really salute the flag. I stand out of respect. But in my mind are images like this. With people who I talk to, people's stories, I know the stories firsthand. I've been to places like this. How do you do that? How would you do that? That's like somebody coming and killing your family, and then someone saying, oh, but you have to go and say hi to them. You got to go say hi to them. But they just killed my whole family. Oh, well, it doesn't matter. I mean, I know that, but you still got to be respectful. You can't call them out. You can't scream at them in a courthouse. It's like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Like, seriously, this is the shit that I live with. Why, I'm half nuts. So here's one. Look at, these are all Mayan women. This is they're in a small village in Guatemala, and they're holding photos of people who the military killed with U.S. weapons, with support from the U.S. Right? Dudes. You know what I mean? Like you don't want to go through life being stupid. You don't want to go through life being ignorant. Trust me, because I go through life being stupid and ignorant, and you don't want to do that. You don't want to say dumb, like, the United States is the greatest country in the world. If you know nothing about this, you got to at least know this. And then if you know this, you'd never have to say that kind of thing, because you'd be smart enough to not say stupid stuff like that. Like, just stuff like, oh, we're the greatest country. It's like, oh, God, come on, man. You haven't even, how many countries have you visited? What do you know? What do you know about U.S.? What do you know about us? We're not the worst country. We do amazing things, including with our military. We do amazing, cool, awesome things. But, man, you've got to confront that. You gotta sit with that somehow. This is also part of the story. So when I can say, for example, there's a way in which the U.S. is the most awesome country in the world. Not a question. And I think that. I truly believe that. And then I'm going to describe awesome to you. But I'm going to describe awesome, I'm going to define it differently than you might define it. But I think that the U.S. is really probably the most awesome country in the world. I don't mean the biggest, the most powerful, and all that bullshit. I mean like an amazing place where people get along and do amazing things, and it's awesome. But like, you gotta be part of it. You gotta see this, bro.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I don't think there's anything wrong with having pride in your country. Like, yeah. I've been to many countries, and I have to say, like, America gives opportunities to, like, my family that they couldn't get in their country. So yeah, I think it's sad what happened, but I have nothing to do with this. Like, I mean,
yeah, I got you.
I don't know. I do think America's a great country.
Yeah, that's cool, dude. No, America's a great country. I got it, and it's cool to have pride in a country. That's cool. But if you're gonna really have that pride, I'm just going to say, for you, if you're going to say that to me in my face, then I'm going to say, that's cool to have the pride. And do you know about this? If your pride includes all these other things, then we're good with that, right? Then it's cool. But you got to sit with the struggle, because nothing is black and white in this world. So you got to sit with the struggle. That's what makes us thinkers. That's like what you want to be. That's why we're in college, is to be thinkers. We're in college. You're here because those of you who don't think about this stuff, you're here right now because you need to think about this. You need to think about the fact that those two people right there who died holding each other, so that means they were alive when they were killed. And it's certain they were poor, innocent people who didn't do anything. You got to also make that part of your story. That's why you're here today. How do you include that? So when you say there's nothing wrong with being proud of your country, that's cool. Got it. America's an amazing place. Yes. America gives opportunities to people. Yes. Not a question. Not only here, but also in other countries, right? And we're also that. So you got to include that. How do you do it? I know I can do it. I've sat. Listen, y'all. I've sat with parents who lost their children to death squads. Okay? I've had them tell me right in my face the pain. I saw the photos of their children. My government, my tax dollars, everything, right? So I'm there. I got that. And yet I can still say exactly what you just said, which is like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with people having pride in their country, but that's also sitting on my shoulder, going like, and these other things are happening. Most of these people are from Guatemala and Honduras. And you say, well, we're not responsible for them. Why should we let them into our country? Oh, really? Maybe it's not that simple. I was listening to an interview of a couple people from Guatemala who are probably in this very group right here. And they were talking about what led them to get onto this caravan and come to the United States. And it's the same stuff I was reading about when I was your age. And I'm thinking, whoa. And they're getting weapons from the United States. And they're still getting training from the United States. And their lives are in danger because, one reason or another. And I think, here we are. Here we are. Right? We're back. It's like my whole life has gone full circle in, 35 to 40 years, right? It's gone full circle. It's like, God. And so I can't look at these people and say, I'm like, well, you can't just open the borders and let everybody in, right? You can't just do that. And yet, what? What? There's nothing in an hour. There's no way that I could even begin to offer up a vision in 1 hour. At most, could just put a question mark in our heads about what we know and what we think we know.